heard of Rivella? When you mention Switzerland to most people, they probably think about chocolate or cheese. But for a Swiss person, the most famous Swiss food just might be Rivella. I haven't tried it yet, but I hear either you love it or you hate it. Rivella is a pop drink made from whey. That's right, from milk. If you haven't guessed by now, my topic today is Swiss culture. Aspect 1. My first aspect of Swiss culture, as you may have already guessed, is food. I have listed some of my foods on my poster, but here is the top 10 Swiss foods. Cheese fondue is made from melted cheese, garlic, white wine, and corn flour and cherry brandy. You put all the ingredients into a special pot which uses a fuel called Swiss fire gel to heat the cheese and melt it. Then you use extra long forks to dip stuff like potatoes and squares of bread into the cheese. Be careful to keep the food on the fork or else you'll have stuff floating around in your cheese. Rosti is basically a cake of fried grated potatoes. It's crispy on the outside and gooey on the inside. Rosti is considered the Swiss national dish. The word on my third card is unpronounceable to mere mortals, so let's just call it Swiss muesli. It was invented by Dr. Bircher Benner because he thought it would be healthier than a heavy meat-based diet. Bircher muesli is a cereal made of oats, fruit, nuts, lemon juice, and milk. Raclette is actually a type of Swiss cheese, but the Swiss have made a meal with the same name. It's a lot like fondue because it's a meal based around melted cheese. This time you use the contraption in my picture to melt the cheese over potatoes, vegetables, deli meats, and pickled onions and small normal pickles. Bundernuss-Torte or nut tart is a very rich pastry, usually served with a cup of coffee or tea. Saffron risotto. It's made of saffron and risotto rice cooked slowly with wine and cheese. This dish comes from the Italian region of Switzerland. Cut meat Zurich style is traditionally made of veal, but my Großpapa makes it with chicken or turkey cooked with mushrooms, onions, wine, and cream, served over rosti, noodles, or rice. Zopf is a delicious sweet white bread which gets its name from the fact that it's braided. Zopf means braid. It's usually eaten on Sunday mornings. A Berner Platte is basically a plate of sausages, potatoes, and sauerkraut. It was created on March 5th, 1798, after the Bernese defeated the French army. They celebrated with a huge feast which was probably made up of a lot of meat and potatoes. 10. Herdsmann's macaroni. It is a traditional dish from the German part of Switzerland and uses all the ingredients that were available to herdsmen. It's usually made with potatoes, cheese, macaroni, onions, cream or milk, and applesauce. Maybe you noticed the Swiss eat a lot of potatoes and cheese. This is because they were mostly mountain farmers, and these were the foods they could get the easiest. Aspect 2. The next thing I want to talk about is Swiss language. Switzerland has 4 main languages: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. Romansh is a version of Latin. It comes from when Switzerland was still ruled by Rome. Did you know Switzerland is the English name for the country? My poster shows the way they spell Switzerland in each of the 4 national languages. but the real name for Switzerland is the Swiss Confederation, or Helvetica for short. Aspect 3. Swiss people love their sports. Maybe because they have to work off all the meat and potatoes they eat. Almost everybody in Switzerland skis and hikes. People under 30 mostly downhill ski, but people over 30 prefer cross-country skiing. They also really like unihockey, and it is dominated by Sweden, Finland, and Switzerland. It's a bit like floor hockey, except with a different stick. Nate is going to show you what the stick and ball look like. Aspect 4. Did you know that Switzerland has its own holidays? The biggest holiday is Swiss National Day. On this day, everyone decorates their houses with flags, lanterns, candles, and banners, and the people dress in traditional Swiss clothes. Every spring, the farmers take their cows up to the mountains where they can roam and eat fresh grass to their heart's content. In the fall, when they come down, the farmers dress the cows in decorative hats and bells and bring them around like a parade. This Monday, the people of Zurich celebrated the end of winter with a festival where they burn a boog on a pyre. The boog is a snowman dummy, and the way it burns is supposed to forecast what kind of summer they will have. As soon as it explodes, winter has ended and spring begins. Aspect 5. The last aspect of my Swiss culture project is Alphorns and yodeling, music. The Swiss people are always celebrating with music. You will often see Alphorns at special occasions. An Alphorn is a big horn that was used to call the cows in at milking time. Swiss people also really like to yodel. Yodeling is a form of singing that comes from the throat. It's really hard to do, and most North American versions of yodeling are not at all like the Swiss and German versions. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope you learned some interesting things about Swiss culture. Whew.